Okay, so today we're going to do how to draw a pumpkin. Pumpkin. From direct observations. That means you're looking at the object directly and sketching it out. So with every object that y'all are doing, y'all need to break it down by shapes. So really look and figure out, well, one, what angle are you looking at? Are you looking at it from above? Are you looking at it from the side? Are you looking at it from like a 3/4 angle? Okay? So wherever it's placed on your table, figure out how you're looking at it and go from there. So once you figure out your viewpoint or your perspective on the object, you need to break the object down by shapes. So if we were to ignore the top and just look at the pumpkin, what shape would it look most likely like? Like a circle, right? So you can give yourself a guideline for your object. So if we're going to do a top view of a pumpkin, so right over here, I'm going to need to do kind of like a guideline of a rough circle. From there, I need to look at each of my individual sides. So as it comes around, okay, I got this little middle point, and I'll get some flowers in there. But the pumpkin itself, it has these lines that kind of curve out and back in. So if you look at it on the pumpkin itself, they're narrow as they come in, and then it gets wider, and you see that outer curve. And then you can keep that going around. Make sure you're looking back and forth at your object every time you're drawing it. And this can be applied to any object that you're drawing. So any objects that we draw, you can break it down by basic shapes. So just by looking at it and figuring out what shape is most similar to what you're trying to make. And when I'm sketching nice and light, and that way if I mess up, I can go back and erase and or make it better. Alright, so is this kind of pumpkin-like? It's coming together. It could be like a flower still. So from here, I have all these extra embellishments on my pumpkin that I need to include. So because I sketched nice and light, I can just draw right on top, and then I can either shade over it or I can erase. Don't ever do that. Ever. Okay. So from here, my little point starts in the middle. I'm going to look at each shape of my petal. So because we're doing that top view, that petal comes out on the side. And it kind of folds in. Then we're going to do the next one. There's another one kind of hiding inside. Then there's some bigger ones. So I'm looking constantly back and forth, trying to see where each individual petal is as I'm drawing it. So the big thing about drawing from direct observation or life drawing in general is that you are constantly looking back and forth at your subject matter and what you're drawing. Because as soon as you look away and start just drawing, that means you're making stuff up, and the artwork or the finished product will not look as realistic as it could be. Wait till I'm done. So I'm going to keep these flower petals going. I'm going to speed this up a little bit so I can get a little bit faster. And then from there, so I got some basic flower petals that are seen in this one. Then I need my leaf, so my leaf is hiding over here. Oh, Chandler, can I have my eraser? Then I can also get the little sticks that are showing on this one. Oh, are you doing it on the back? Huh? I know. Uh-huh. All right, let me get all these little stick things in there. Okay, and then from there, so we have our basic sketch of it. Then you could actually go back and start adding your shading. So for pumpkins, and it is easier if you do use a realistic pumpkin, so a real life pumpkin rather than fake ones. So whatever's on top of it. So it is easier to kind of draw what's on top or work your way backwards. So you remember how I drew the pumpkin first, and then I was like, oh wait, I have flowers and this other stuff on top. So I drew it right on top. I drew it really, really lightly at first. That way I could go back and draw on top and shade. So I could go in here and like shade my petals according to the values that I'm seeing. So I see like that they're darker on the edge, and then they fade out to light. And I'm kind of doing scribble shading right now. So scribble shading is like a very gestural and loose type of shading. It's another technique that we have not gone over, but some of y'all might have made it up on your own. Scribble shading, it's very, like I said, it's very gestural, very loose, and it makes it look a little bit more cartoonish versus that tonal shading that we looked at. Makes it look a little bit more realistic. But yeah, anytime you have objects on top of another object, you can draw it directly. So the next one I can draw, I'll draw my objects. I'll draw the pumpkin with the leaf and stuff first. So what's on top first. And then I could go back and draw what's on bottom. So it's up to you. So it depends on how you want to work. So preferably some people like working top to bottom. So whatever's on top first, draw that first, and then draw what's underneath. With this one, it was a little bit easier for me to get the pumpkin in there first and then go back and get the rest. Get that shaded. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Alright, so besides that, looking at the shading part of our pumpkin, so whenever you're looking at an object, you really want to focus on where the lights are and where the darks are. So if you look up here, you can kind of see like some of the reflection that I'm seeing in the light. It's a little bit brighter on my side than it is on the camera, but you can see the different tones and reflections. So it's a little bit darker on the inner sides and near the bottom. And when doing tonal shading, your fingers, again, they shouldn't be wrapped around. That's for like, you know, drawing or writing. Your fingers should be on top. And I want a nice deep dark shade underneath where my shadow would be for my leaves and underneath my flowers. And then bring that out to the side, so back up. And keep that going. So again, make sure you're always looking back and forth at your object. So my eyes are constantly glancing between my paper and my object. Paper, object, paper, object. Every time I'm working, even when shading. Especially when the drawing. So when drawing, you especially want to look back and forth Because if not, then your sizes can be off, the shape can be off, all that other stuff. So always looking is super, super important. And then from there, I could go back and finish everything else. So I have like my sticks right here. And then I could finish my leaf, so on and so forth, until I finish all the way.